Hi guys, this is Betty again, and I'm here with another video at the intersection of books and notebooks. I'm going to be sharing my annotation practice with you. Before I do that, I just really wanted to say a heartfelt thank you to everybody who watched my first video. You guys were so sweet and welcoming and supportive. And frankly, I was so nervous when I shared that first little note that um, I almost didn't upload it, but no regrets. Here I am with more. And if you have any requests for future videos, please let me know. I want these to be useful to you. Okay, so today I'm going to be sharing very briefly how I annotate books. And there are several steps to this, but I'll try to keep it as simple as possible. I wrote a detailed post on this titled My No Bullshit Guide to Annotating, and I kind of stand by that ridiculous title because I honestly have no time for bullshit. I am a reader and I'm not a professional reviewer, so I'm only doing this for myself. I'm not doing this to create some like rigorous body of work behind me. But I will say that annotating does help me personally to gain a deeper understanding and a deeper connection to my reading. So I highly recommend that you give it a try if you haven't already started. So the first thing that I do as part of this system is that I always read with a pencil in hand. And I did that before I even started annotating. But basically, as I read, I mark up the pages of my book. And in many ways, this is a very helpful thing to do because obviously it makes it easy to go back and reference things that you want to return to in your book, but also in a very kind of material way. When I'm underlining passages in a book, I kind of start to feel if I'm actually connecting with the text or not. The more I underline, essentially, the more I like the book, or the more I connect to it, even if I don't like it. So that's my first step. My second step in annotating is to kind of free write about the book. And I already talked about this a little bit in my first video on my notebooks and journaling practices. But basically, I do 3 to 5 pages, just really kind of loose reflections on the book that I've completed reading. And sometimes those are just like plot notes, names, themes, questions that I have about what I've read. The book that I'm going to be showing you today is this book, Playboy by Constance Debray, who is a French author that I've become obsessed with. I really love her work, and I have been tracking the trilogy that she has written. And I was just actually referencing my notes from this first book, Playboy, that I just showed you, and I thought, wow, this is just such a great reminder how awesome annotating is for when you're trying to return to a book and kind of resuscitate it in your mind. Okay, so I read it, I underline as I go, and then I journal about it. So this is my reading journal with my notes on Playboy. It's just 3 or 4 pages. It's nothing especially remarkable or revolutionary, but as a result of this journaling, I'm able to outline a set of themes, which is my third step in my process. So these are just kind of things that seem to bubble up to the surface as I'm reading. And the unique thing about my particular way of annotating is that I'm really not going for comprehensive set of themes and ideas. If you're a reader, especially if you read literary fiction or other serious works of writing, you know that like very often there's just so many themes and ideas that kind of run their course through the book. I am not trying to identify every single thing that's worth talking about. What I'm identifying in my notebook is the list of themes that I'm personally interested in. And for very practical reasons, I kind of like to keep that around 4 to 6, um, 5 on average, just so that it's kind of easy to kind of hold these themes in my mind as I go back through the book and start marking up the passages that kind of contain discussions of these themes that I'm interested in. Again, I'm not trying to identify everything that's interesting about the book. What I'm doing this for is to figure out what I connect with. So once I have my list of themes, so for example, in this particular book, I've listed queerness, infidelity, bourgeois upbringing, classes, instincts, boredom and longing, desire, and then self discipline and transformation. So these are the themes that I have identified as I'm reading. I pick up colorful post-its. You've seen these tabs, I'm sure, all over the internet. And I assign a color to each one of the themes that I'm trying to track. So I do that and I transfer them, the stickies, with a color code in the themes on the first page of the book itself. So something that you may notice from my stickies here is that um, the colors are a little bit all over the place, and some people may find that ugly or unattractive. I'm one of those people who obsess with content around annotation on Instagram, and there's a lot of fantastic accounts that share these gorgeous books with the monochromatic sticky notes applied to them. I try to be one of those people, but in my experience, the monochromatic sticky notes, even though they're more visually pleasing on the eye, are actually much harder to use if your goal is to actually go back to the books that you read and reference your annotations. If you think about it, if you've used variations on gray stickies, once you go into your book, it's much harder to differentiate between pale gray and medium gray than it is to differentiate between blue and pink. So my personal point of advice, not that you have to take it, is to actually just go with like the most standard kind of garish sticky notes that post-it notes that you can find, because it's just much easier to use them once you start going back and like digging through your references. So back on track, I've put my colors, my colored stickies and the themes that I'm trying to um, track on this first page. And then I go back through the book. Honestly, it can feel a little bit, I mean, it's work, laborsome, but I go back through my book page by page. I stop at the pages that I have underlined, and then referencing my legend, I go back and apply the relevant colored sticky to the particular page. Something that you may already have noticed is that at the very bottom, I have a color sticky that is quite different from the rest of them. So it really truly stands out. And that's the sticky note that allows me to track quotes. So obviously everything that I have annotated, I'm interested in, but the passages that have this color, in addition to whatever other theme they carry, are the ones that have the most beautiful language, or language that I kind of am feeling really drawn to, and I want to preserve and be able to easily reference. These are the passages that also will probably end up in my commonplace book. So once the stickies are in, um, I can really I really enjoy like looking at the book kind of like this, like as a material object, and admire how easy it is to actually um, figure out what themes seem to really connect with me the most, based just simply on this exercise. Because simply by looking at the spine and the color of the stickies, I can see quite easily that there's a bunch of pale blue sticky notes that I see. There's a bunch of pale purple ones and some green ones. And when I go into my legend, I can then see very quickly that those colors correspond to the themes of queerness, infidelity, and bourgeois upbringing. I already mentioned that earlier in the video. So it's really quite um, simple to then close the book and say, like, oh yeah, I remember what this was about. And in fact, I know where some of my favorite quotes are because I can pull them based on this darker color that I've included here. This is sort of how the mechanics of this process work. But the very last step to me is also probably the most important one. So I've gone through all of this work, and it is work. But why do I do it? I personally write a Substack in which I share um, reading reviews. I write a monthly kind of wrap up of my video of my reading, and that's just kind of like my final frontier of engaging with my annotated books. I use my Substack as a way to like put together final kind of more refined thoughts around what I'm reading or have been reading. But I want to encourage you guys, even if you don't have a Substack, to just go through all of this and then take a moment at the very end to kind of think about, like, so what, I went through all of this. Like, the purpose of it is not to create a beautiful object, even though this is fun to do, but the purpose of it is to figure out a way to get even deeper and be even more engaged with the piece of um, writing in front of you. So whether you want to write an essay based on this, or do another brief journaling session, or just even talk to a friend about it, just make that final step, take that final step, and do something with the information in your hands based on the annotation process that you just went through. How do we feel about it? Let me know. I really hope this was useful. I really tried to keep it as simple as possible, just because I know we're all busy and we just don't have time for everything we want to do. But I really, really encourage you to try this practice because it really changes the quality of your reading. All right, keep me posted and we'll talk soon.